Spoilers. 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 I like that word.
I thought you might.
Hello everyone and welcome back to another Fan Theories, and one I know you've all been waiting for. In the Series 14 episode Rogue, fans were very surprised to see a very familiar face turning up. During the scene in which Rogue scans him, the Doctor's past faces appeared. One appeared which resembled the actor Richard E. Grant. Within the Doctor Who universe and its expanded media, Richard is best known for playing the 10th Doctor in the comic relief Curse of Fatal Death sketch, the 9th Doctor from the Scream of the Shalka webcast, and Dr. Simeon and the Great Intelligence in Series 7. With his face appearing amongst the Doctor's former incarnations, many fans have been trying to work out if he is either of the formerly mentioned incarnations and how they fit into the incarnation chronology. And now I've said incarnation so many times, the word's gone weird on me. But if you're watching this theory hoping to find an answer to how either of these incarnations might fit into the existing ones, I'm sorry, but that's not where this theory's going. Now at this point I could go into a very long-winded explanation about why neither the 10th Doctor from the Curse of Fatal Death or the Shalka Doctor fit into this narrative. Whether that is because they are pre-Hartnell incarnations, whether it is Season 6B, whether some Time War stuff has happened, or even a bi-generation. Because believe me, I have gone through all of these and tried to make them work, and they just don't for one reason or another. To put it as simply as I can, trying to use any of the formerly mentioned explanations to try and fit in these incarnations not only raises more questions than they answers, but in order to make them fit, you have to create quite a lot of non-canon / fan assumptions and or even rewrite existing established narrative in order to make them fit. And for me personally, a good theory should always build on and or have a basis in existing established canon narrative. And before all the timeless child naysayers come in at this point, that concept was based on ideas and concepts that have been in the show for 40 years before it aired. If you don't like it, go cry about it somewhere else. No one is interested in that here. So bearing all that in mind, how do I explain his appearance in the lineup? The Shalka Doctor is what he's always been, a 9th incarnation intended to have regenerated from the 8th Doctor in a completely alternate universe and completely unconnected to the main universe's incarnations. And the most recent evidence to back up this comes from not only Russell T Davies, but also Paul Cornell, writer of Scream of the Shalka. Following Rogue's transmission, Paul posted a picture of the Shalka Doctor and the Master from that universe to his Instagram with the caption, "We've entered another dimension by mistake." Subsequently, Russell himself replied to this with canon. So for my theory, I take this as confirmation that this is both Paul and Russell confirming that the Shalka Doctor is indeed from another parallel universe, but somehow accidentally ended up in the main one. Now that in itself might seem like a little bit of a stretch, and we do have to make a few assumptions, I will admit. However, this idea does have a basis in established ideas and narrative stories. So let's get into a little bit of backstory for this theory. In the Series 3 episodes Human Nature and Family of Blood, the Doctor faces off against the titular family. These episodes are also written by Paul Cornell and based on the novel also by him called Human Nature, but featuring the 7th Doctor. The result of this story on TV shows the Doctor imprisoning the family in various ways, most notably for this theory being the fate of Daughter of Mine, who the Doctor trapped in a mirror and would continue to visit every year. As told in the short stories produced for Lockdown, A Shadow Passes and The Shadow in the Mirror, she was later remembered and eventually released by the 13th Doctor. However, the short story A Shadow of Doubt, set between the former two mentioned stories, sees Bernice Summerfield encountering Daughter of Mine, during which she not only reveals that she has been visited by several Doctors, both past and future, but that she also possesses knowledge of not only other versions of herself from other universes and timelines, but also other Doctors from other universes. Moreover, she mentions the one that Benny travelled with, which is generally accepted to be the 7th Doctor, alluding to the events of Human Nature. However, it could also be the 8th Doctor, or, more to the point of this theory regarding alternate incarnations from other universes, the Unbound Doctor. However, most poignant to this theory is that she mentions being visited by the thin white aristocrat, which is generally accepted and more to the point specifically intended to be a reference to the Shalka Doctor. Furthermore, she has not only the ability to appear in any mirror throughout the universe, but also seemingly any mirror in the universe throughout time. and possibly even mirrors in other dimensions. Within the Whoniverse, mirrors have been shown often to act as portals between dimensions and other universes. Examples of this are seen in Warrior's Gate, the comic The Silver Ring, and the novel Martha in the Mirror. So, bearing all this in mind, how does all of this fit together into my theory? Strap yourselves in, here we go. At some point, Daughter of Mine travels to a mirror in the Shalka Doctor's universe, which is how she meets him. Given that he is the 9th incarnation in that universe, it is reasonable to assume that the events of the novel version of Human Nature featuring the 7th Doctor happened to him, and therefore he would recognise and still visit Daughter of Mine. Whilst not necessarily willing to release her, as weren't many of the other Doctors who had visited her, his past tragedies and failures to save those he cared about perhaps made him feel sorry for her, which was a factor also in the 13th Doctor eventually releasing her. So in that moment of weakness where he may have considered letting her go, Daughter of Mine seized on that opportunity, took advantage of it, and tried to make her escape. Thanks to some quick thinking by the Doctor, and possibly also the Master, they managed to prevent her escape, but in doing so, they were dragged through the mirror into another universe, that of the main series N-Space universe. And this mini-adventure is chronicled, albeit in one sentence, in Paul Cornell's Instagram post. And now we return to why he shows up in Rogue. When the 15th Doctor throws the psychic paper at Rogue's scanner in order to prove his identity, I theorised that he was likely thinking of as many of his incarnations across the universe as he could, so that the scanner would show up as many of them as possible, and therefore proving his point about his identity. And this likely happened at a point where the Shalka Doctor was in the main universe, which is why he showed up alongside his other N-Space 9th counterpart, or parts, depending on how you look at the War Doctor and the 9th Doctor. Now it is at this point I will hold up my hands and admit this theory still doesn't hold up hugely well at first. It still raises questions as to why future incarnations didn't necessarily appear, or even the previously mentioned Unbound Doctor who, at last point of recording this video, was known to still be in the main N-Space universe. However, it's also worth noting at this point that the now established pre-Hartnell incarnations of the Morbius Doctors also didn't appear. So whilst it's a little bit of a flimsy explain-away, given that the Doctor's incarnations appeared out of sequence, perhaps it really was a random selection based on the Doctor's under-pressure thought process at that moment. Maybe to really prove to Rogue how old and powerful he is, the 15th Doctor not only thought about his known incarnations within himself, but also his mysterious pre-existent incarnations, but possibly even as well his other versions of himself from other universes, explaining why both the Fugitive and Shalka incarnations appear as examples of how widespread his life and influence is. So there you have it. I appreciate this may not be the most popular theory out there, and it is certainly also still not without its questions. But personally, I feel that this does hold up better than anything else, and does certainly raise a lot less questions than any other explanations. Furthermore, the basis for this theory is almost completely based on the works of Paul Cornell, writer of Scream of the Shalka. And as the creator of said incarnation, he of all people would know perhaps best where he fits in. So until we get more information, and I sincerely hope that we do, even if it overcomplicates matters even more, this is the theory that I'm sticking to. But that brings to a close another Fan Theories. As always, I hope you all enjoyed this video. Like, favorite, subscribe, share, it really helps me out a lot. And be sure to description below for a link to my Patreon. I am still working on my figure animation. There will be an update coming on it in future. As I said, I have just been very busy with everything going on. But for the smallest donation, you can get your name at the end of my videos, and the smallest donation is very much greatly received to help keep the running of this channel. I salute you all, and I will see you with another video very soon.